with that Arctina.
Yeah, this is a deck that I guess kind of came out of nowhere, as we saw it do very well at winning a regional championship.
Yep.
With a lot of help from that Squavit. And on the other side, a regional champion in their own right, Connor Finton, playing Lugia V-Star once more. I think he's only won points with Lugia at this point. And he said, I'm just going to stick out the entire year with this deck alone and see if I can just earn all the points because of the chops.
Yeah, absolutely. I've chatted with Connor a couple times in interviews, and that's exactly what he says. It's like, well, I mean, if it's not broken, then no need to fix it. Let me just keep rolling.
It might be broken in
a
another
good way.
Yeah.
Connor Finton playing the broken deck, absolutely. This should be a good matchup for sure. I feel like even though Arctina has won a regional now, people still don't seem to really respect the deck in a lot of senses, though. Kyle, what do you think about that?
I kind of don't respect it.
Oh my god!
I'm one of those haters. I think that a lot of decks that play Arceus can play any Pokemon that they want and do well, just because of the consistency of path and combination with Judge. And if you're able to just continually do that, get the knockouts rolling with the Arceus in the beginning, you can charge up any Pokemon back there and have success. We've seen people with Aerodactyl doing well at this tournament. It doesn't really matter what you pair it with. I don't know if Giratina is my favorite partner for this deck.
Yeah, we call them arc piles, essentially, is what we call them, when you just mash a bunch of different Pokemon into one deck, all powered up by that Arceus V-Star. But yeah, Giratina is definitely a common partner that we see from our players. Yeah, maybe not a favorite out in the field, but still heavily represented, I think, at a lot of the tables. And so far for Dan Hugar, doing well, 4-0 currently, so this should be a super exciting game.
Yeah, you can't argue the power level of the deck. It's very strong in the fact that you get that opening attachment on the Arceus, you get the turn 2, start to accelerate those energies and potentially take knockouts in combination, and sure enough, you have 280 damage, 310 potentially with some help there from your items, and you can take some big knockouts. And another inclusion there that helps out is that Radiant Hawlucha at times, not going to be a factor in this matchup, also sitting at the top.
Ooh, I love these new artworks that we're seeing. That Raihan is beautiful.
Yeah.
Not beautiful in the price cards, though, really.
I mean, we get to look at it a little longer.
Yeah,
nice.
That's true. That is very true. I guess according to these lists as well, Kyle, we were discussing a little bit before this game started. What is the standout thing for this matchup here?
It's tricky. I mean, obviously, Dan wants to get off to that opening start and line up that Giratina to take some big knockouts early on the pieces like the Lugia. But I'm going to be looking at the stadiums in this matchup, as Path to the Peak against Connor with no Pumpkaboo. It's definitely something to look out for.
Yep, Connor doesn't have that Stampede Pumpkaboo in the deck. It's not there, and that is a very common inclusion for our players. But here we go. Kicking off Swiss round 5 here in Milwaukee. Dan Hugar versus Connor Finton. I am super excited, and we're starting over on Dan's side of the field. A great start here with that Arceus V in the active. That's exactly where you want it to be. Now you just need some more Pokemon on the bench, a little bit of setup here, and an energy preferably.
Yeah, didn't see the rest of the hand. Obviously, looking for that energy. You want to be able to get some chip damage onto this Lugia if possible, just because you want to line up that opening knockout on the turn 2, turn 3. You start accumulating that damage, and then you have that fresh Giratina V-Star to work on those threats like the Tyranitar that potentially could be coming.
Yeah, I feel like that's really how a lot of ARC variants play. You just want to take very strong initial knockouts in the early game sometimes and really just like bolster your strategy versus your opponents, because that's always a very nice strategy to have. But here we go, that Bidoof coming out onto the field. We do have that Bibarel engine is a part of this deck as well, with that Industrious Incisors being able to draw some more cards for you. Big part of this deck that you see most times.
Yeah, it looks like this is going to be a pretty solid start here for Dan. Has the energy to start things off there with the Arceus, along with the Ultra Ball that could easily find that Bibarel and start leading into that Arceus V-Star on turn 2. So,
wow,
gotta love seeing that opener.
Yeah, lots of Pokemon out, all your evolution Pokemon out on the first turn. That's great, because then you can just evolve into them and then be coasting the rest of the game. But we're over on Connor Finton's side now of the field, starting with that Lugia V in the active. Let's see where Connor can go on this first turn. Of course, Connor going second is able to play a supporter card as well, but going to start off with a Nest Ball here. So we've talked about Lugia so much, Kyle, how it's a bit of a coin flip type deck now. There's a lot of things that could go your way and a lot of things that could go wrong. But and then also talking about how Stonejourner has sometimes been left out, but it is in the deck here for Connor Finton this time around.
Yeah, we've seen players, as soon as you switch to that single strike Urshifu VMAX, can forego playing the Stonejourner, but in the prize exchange, especially in a matchup like this, when you know you're going to be losing V-Star Pokemon pretty easily from the Giratina on the other side, you like to have that option to switch things up, have that single prize Pokemon ready to go, and it looks like gonna instead work its way towards the single strike Urshifu here, and there's the Lumineon. And this is something I've been looking for, as we saw the opening Mesagoza in hand, but you always want to hold on to that potentially to avoid that path locking you out. So you could go for the early Burnett here, just get the resources into the discard pile. It looks like a bad turn, but it leads into a strong second turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely picking and choosing when you want to play certain things. But that Burnett being able to discard 2 Archeops, that always feels pretty nice, huh, Kyle?
Yeah, those are definitely the Pokemon you need to look out for, as they definitely lead to the only way this deck works.
Yes, absolutely. Bringing out those Archeops straight from the discard pile, and that is what your energy acceleration is turned on for this matchup. So that's going to be a huge part of our next couple turns, and Connor's in a great spot to be able to get that rolling. So pretty solid here from Connor, and like you said, holding on to the resources that need to be held on to for later game strategy. Now we're back over onto Dan's side of the field, going to start off with an evolution into that Arceus V-Star here. No Path to the Peak, of course, in play or anything that's hurting any abilities, so we're going to see that V-Star power being kicked off right away. Starbirth allowing you to search out 2 cards. You don't have to reveal them because they can be any cards from your deck. So Dan is going to use this to line up exactly what he needs in his hand at this moment in time.
Yeah, I don't know if this means that you potentially find a random card to throw away with Ultra Ball, because it looks like you like the double turbo to have an attack, and then the boss's orders potentially to work in a really cheeky early knockout on the Lumineon V, and then you can start to just target with the Giratina on the final knockouts. But usually you see the Ultra Ball first, go for the Bieberol, and then you can draw up and then use your Starbirth to pick any of those additional pieces. But with the boss, it got a little tricky.
It got a little wonky there for sure. But yeah, I definitely see what you mean there, Kyle. It's always interesting to see what the prize mapping comes down to as well from these Tina players versus what they're going against. But it's going to be that Path to the Peak now that Starbirth ability has been used. It is safe to play it out here onto the field, and it's just going to be a boss bringing up that single strike Urshifu V.
Yeah, getting the damage onto this Pokemon certainly means that lining up the 3 prize cards later on will be a lot easier. It's definitely a lot of HP to work through, so getting the chip damage, understandable, but gonna go and charge up the second Arceus V. Thinking about maybe having another one of these to line up that Giratina later. So
absolutely,
it's gonna be 2-piecing the Urshifu VMAX.
Yeah, 2-piecing indeed. That 180 damage there because of that double turbo, taking off 20 damage on that Arceus V-Star, that Trinity Nova. Now we're back over to Connor, bumping that Path to the Peak immediately for that Mesagoza that was left in the hand, and it's going to be a heads. So that means any Pokemon here can come out of the deck here for Connor.
Yeah, finding the Lugia there, it's going to be the Summoning Star ready to go, and then the decision for Connor is, do you even evolve at this point? You can just work in the knockout with this Urshifu V and maybe use those single strike, the single prize Pokemon in this matchup. Try to make the HP work your way.
Yeah, I love when we see Lugia just convert into like a single prize deck. It's always interesting. But here we go. This is going to be our primal turbos here. So Connor Finton available, or has the special energy available to him to search out of the deck for each of these primal turbo and attach it to 1 Pokemon per primal turbo.
Yeah, especially making use of that gift energy there. The hand isn't very strong, and Connor's going to go ahead and thin a little more, try to get the hand very low. can line up a knockout and then potentially have the refill for if a judge were to find its way back onto the play next turn.
And look, Kyle, it's your favorite energy there coming out onto the field here. Connor Finn playing that Capturing Aroma. I'm guessing that it was for that basic Pokemon because that Stonejourner is coming out as well into the hand.
Yep. At this point, probably going to have access to the Pokemon that you need throughout the rest of the game. So thinning makes a lot of sense. Just continue to burn these cards, and maybe if your opponent judges you, you just find the resources that you're going to need later on, which are those Urn of Vitality.
Absolutely. Urn of Vitality, very essential. I mean, just the single strike package in general now that fits into the Lugia deck. Definitely a very different way. And maybe Connor's going to try to take this version of the deck to a win. That would be awesome. But here we go. Luminion being thinned out of the deck as well into the hand for Connor. What else do we have left for this turn, Kyle?
Not much. Already seen the energies accelerated, the attacks lined up, and I don't know if you need to use the Ultra Ball here, so it seems completely reasonable to just go ahead and take the knockout there with Impact Blow, and it's going to lead to 2 early prize cards.
Absolutely. So taking that knockout down, 2 prize cards for Connor Finton. Back over to Dan Hugar's side of the field now. Just has that Arc V fully loaded up with energy, and that's going to be a heads on the Mesa Goza here for Dan. So as that stadium helped Connor, it's also going to turn back around and help out Dan here as well, able to search out any Pokemon from the deck. I didn't see what was in hand here, but I'm sure that V-Star is available for the pick-in from Dan with that Ultra Ball and the Beaverells on the field.
Yep, line up that Pokemon for the knockout there with the Arceus V-Star. Hopefully you don't draw into too many energies here, as you'd like to have the energies to accelerate onto the Giratina V, and you'd really love to find the V-Star in this moment, as this is a pretty vulnerable turn for Dan. He's going to have 220 hit points, which is a lot easier of a knockout. You could even be knocked out by Boss's Orders in combination with that Lugia, so finding the evolution here off these 5 cards would be very helpful.
Yeah, you're in a dangerous position indeed. Could get very sticky here, so we'll have to see what this Industrious Incisors brings here for Dan. Just saying, it's using Beaverell. All right, so it's going to be 5 cards here to the hand for Dan.
Oh, I don't see it, but we see Squavit.
Squavit. Oh.
Do you ever?
No, it's not to say I don't know about that,
ever?
Kyle. I don't know about that. I mean, I guess I've seen crazier things with
it's
the Squavit.
so risky.
It's so risky. Wow. Bumping that Mesa Goza for the Path to the Peak here. That's another copy. I think one was in the prize cards for Dan, 1 path. So this is the 2nd path now that's been played out onto the field. And then we're going to see the judge. A little less risky there for sure, Kyle.
Yeah, no, this definitely makes sense. You see your 4 cards. And now if we don't see it here, then maybe you have to go for it, because you cannot have the one way to draw all of your prize cards and close out this match knocked out this turn. It would be awful.
Oh, yeah, that sounds pretty terrible here. So we're going to see what 4 cards both of these players draw into.
Yep, not nearly as relevant for Connor as we see that gift energy still.
Yeah.
But you still like to see some good cards. All right, tons of Boss's Order. That's cool.
Just a couple of those. No big deal. We're going to see the energy attachment here, as well as a choice belt for Dan onto that Giratina V. Boss's Order also in hand. But that's just going to be the Trinity Nova. That's going to take the knockout. Gift energy was on that single strike Urshifu V here, so if Connor's going to be able to draw up to 7 cards now. It is the energy version of what Lucky Egg used to be. Oh. And then, of course, completing the Trinity Nova with those energy onto the Giratina V.
Look at this! 4 energies on this Pokemon.
That's a lot.
Connor just promotes the Lugia. He just needs to see 4 energies ready to go that aren't double turbo or single strike. And you're probably going to get the job done here. Just knocking out this Pokemon, not worried about the one-hit knockout from that Arceus is going to be pretty detrimental.
Actually, yeah. This could be a huge turn here for Connor, for sure. Looks like there's some discussion going on here, maybe to how many cards were drawn off the gift energy.
I should draw 2 more, and then I should draw for turn.
All right, I don't know if he drew off the gift.
Oh, yeah, that's probably what happened. Yeah, exactly. We were talking about it, but you also have to utilize it, Connor. Get your head in the game here.
Yeah, thankfully there was no shuffle there as he went in with the Archeops to see the energies, so.
Yeah, hopefully that's.
I mean, it is relevant. If you drew into a bunch of gift energies and V-Guard energies here, you might not be able to attack with Lugia V-Star.
Oh, no. That would be horrible. Yeah, that is actually very relevant. You were just saying, well, as long as the appropriate energy are in the deck to search out from these Primal Turbo, but yeah, Connor very well could have drawn into it from the gift energy, but just didn't draw here. But I think it looks like they figured things out.
Sorry.
Yeah, also Dan Hugar down to 4 prize cards left to take now, and we're going into the deck here off of this first Primal Turbo for Connor.
Ooh,
are the energies there?
I think have 4.
I see it.
Yep, you get worried when you see the opening gift energy that was played earlier on that Urshifu, but lined up the knockout here. It's perfect. It's actually difficult to attack for 220 in this deck, but sure enough, it's going to work out in this situation. Perfect knockout there for the Giratina V.
Absolutely. Yeah, you wouldn't be thinking to say that for sure, Kyle, but yeah, in this form of Lugia, for sure, things have to connect, and it is connected here for Connor, which is awesome to see. Stonejourner is also going to hit the field for Connor, and we're going to see those single strike energy come back out of the discard pile, shuffled back into the deck here off of that urn.
Yes, nice to get those energies lined up for the following turn. Just continue to recycle those resources as you see, because there's going to be a judge every turn from this point on. Usually you're going to see Judge or Roxanne or something to disrupt, so the fact that we have that gift energy and see these energies lined back up means that you potentially will have knockouts lined up, but this is brutal.
Absolutely brutal. That was 4 energy there, and of course that path to the peak is also off the field here from that Lugia V-Star as well. That Tempest Dive allows you to also discard a stadium in play.
Yeah, I think you were supposed to squub it and just see if you could find the Giratina V-Star. It's happened on stream before.
That's true. That is very true. Maybe regretting things here potentially for Dan, but it's just going to be a boss bringing up that Stonejourner that hit the field last turn, and the path to the peak is going to come out as well. I believe Dan drew the other path to the peak from the prize cards. I think that's the one that just came down, actually.
So instead of targeting down the Luminions, trying to work in the knockouts in the prize race, just going to try to avoid being knocked out in one hit here, which is a similar thing that Connor was looking for, knocking out the Giratina V. And this means that Dan is going to be eyeing up setting up that second Arceus V. The problem is that Arceus V has 220 hit points. We've been in this boat before.
We've been here, and it did not turn out well for us. That is for sure. Oh, we're down to 35 minutes here, so still a decent chunk of time on the clock for these players so far. We're going to see the second Industrious Incisors here. Allows you to draw up to 5 cards per Bibarel. So that is always also nice. Stonejourner, of course, going to be knocked out here. Plenty of damage from that Arceus V-Star. Down another prize card.
Well, Connor just showed him the game. He's got boss's orders, lines up there. Arceus V is going to be knocked out. And that's how you draw it up in this matchup. If you can knock out the Vs instead of the V-Stars, it leads to a pretty quick game. And Connor's going to be looking at the 1-0 lead so far, trying to make that a 2-0 in the next game.
Yeah, it may have gone a bit differently depending on Connor's initial setup, but you know, when we saw that Burnett, both the Archeops go down as well, it was just looking hot there for Connor for sure.
I mean, just the path to the peaks never really made a difference in that stage. Connor held on to the Mesagosa, understood that that is the one way that I would lose this match, is if I overcommit and try to do something different than just go for the Luminion into the Burnett, and it lined up perfectly. Connor was able to take the knockouts, and Dan just wasn't able to get all the pieces together. You really have to have the evolution immediately when you can play it down.
It's wild when you think about it that small of a decision to make on the first turn made such an impact for the other turns of the game. And that's just what separates, such skillful players from maybe more new players that wouldn't think that. They say, oh, I got the stadium, let me throw this down and get some Pokemon out. But yeah, holding on to that was major there for Connor. Of course, knowing there's no pumpkin in the deck and that, Dan, and a lot of these Giratina decks usually play a ton of path to the peak, definitely has that knowledge and has the whereabouts to navigate this match. So Connor, great job there for sure. Let's see if Dan can turn things around here and bring it to a 1-1 going into a game 3 potentially. What do you think Dan can do differently? Was he just outpaced there, Kyle?
I don't know if he can do much more. He did everything he wanted to do.
There wasn't even just a lack of path to people.
Yeah.
Like he had them.
I mean, he had Bieberl, he had Energy Arc start, and he got to go first. It was everything that you're looking for. The only issue was you didn't find Giratina V-Star when you needed it. So maybe if those pieces can line up, but already looking like a disaster start here with the Giratina and no energy in hand.
Oh no. Right when I was talking about turning things around, things might get a little unlucky here for Dan, but we'll see what this pans out here for the first turn for Dan. Going into the deck here with a Nest Ball.
I think Connor has the exact same hand.
Oh my gosh.
This is so good.
I mean, I guess that's Lugia, right?
Yeah, it's just got the Mesagoza once more, starting the Lugia. And after seeing this opener here from Dan, unless he's miraculously able to find an energy, you'd have to squuff it. That's the only way to really look through. I don't think you do that. So probably just going to say, you know what, this is a Trinity Charge kind of game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that Arceus V is going to come down, but yeah, not having that energy is so crucial here. We are going to see the Ultra Ball, at least here from Dan. So having to choose which 2 cards to discard here to search out another Pokemon. Maybe trying to get some more of those pre-evolutions out onto the field.
Yeah, you can certainly think about the Bidoof in this situation. Just you want to line up the draws for the following turn. There's not really much that you can make happen on this opener other than getting down the Arceus V, and then hoping that on this following turn, you can start to work in maybe Escape Rope, Double Turbo Energy, something like that. If you do have double Arceus, it is certainly easier. You can then use your V-Star to go ahead and find that, charge up the other one, but you could always just find the Arceus V, play that down, and use that one as the Trinity Charge Pokemon.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's what we saw last game. Both of those Arceus V were out onto the field, but this time around, Dan is going to be 1 less Pokemon than last time and 1 less energy, unfortunately, for that first turn. We're over onto Connor's side of the field here, starting off with a Capturing Aroma, hitting ahead to search out an evolution Pokemon, and that's going to be I think that's the second Arceops, right? That's in the hand now, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, there is the Ultra Ball, too.
Oh,
so if the Capturing Aroma here hits heads, that would be great. I don't know if it was both arcs or it's just the one.
I think it's just the one, yeah.
Okay, we'll see. But yeah, this is a pretty solid opener here, as Connor's going to be able to find some good pieces, but now at this stage has to figure out what the supporter in combination is to work with. You want to hold on to that Mesagoza once more. Absolutely,
yeah. These Capturing Aroma really decide which strategies you go to per flip. Of course, the heads.
Oh, it was 2.
Oh, it was? Yo! My eyes were not deceiving me. 2 Archeops. Yeah, because when you were like, I think this is the same hand, I was like, oh my gosh, that's 2 Archeops. What? Well, it was 1 at the time, but now it's 2. And that's 2 into the discard off that Ultra Ball here for Connor Finn. You love to see it if you are that Lugia player.
And look at this. Just understands that you don't need a second Lugia right now. Your opponent's not even threatening damage as they didn't get an energy for the turn. So you can play this a lot slower. Just have the Lugia V lined up. If you want to discard, you can. You might not even need to. Luminion's going to be able to bail you out of whatever situation you're in because you have Mesagoza already.
Yeah. What a strong position to be in when you don't even need to put another Pokemon down. And that's where things really start to slip sometimes for that, the Giratina decks in general. If they start off slow, I wouldn't say they're like the best deck for much recovery down the line. So we're going to see what happens here on Dan's side of the field. That Bieberl is now out onto the field, so we have the Industrious Incisors at his capability, but we're going to start off with a Judge. So both of these players, Connor especially, shuffling a massive hand up, and both players are going to draw into 4 cards.
Yeah, there's a lot of good cards that Dan could find in this situation. Obviously, the double turbo, a switching effect, the other Arceus V, anything like that.
Anything playable, really.
Yep.
Because you want to just play things down.
Whoa, that's actually just all of it.
No way.
Arceus V, Arceus V-Star, double turbo. You have Starbirth potentially.
Serious?
But you can go ahead and use the B-Roll first if you want to. And then the last card, Path to the Peak.
Sheesh. Look at this. Everything coming together here for Dan.
What? Those were so good.
Drawing the absolute nuts here.
He doesn't need the Starbirth. He's chilling.
Yeah, who needs the Starbirth for setup when your entire setup's just in your hand? No big deal.
He has the vacuum for the path if he wants to counter it next turn.
That's actually wild. That is actually wild. That is so
At this
wild.
point, you just can charge up the Giratina V, threaten the knockout if Connor's not able to find the right cards. Yep. And Connor's holding on to Ultra Ball, which could find Pumpkin if he had one.
Yeah, but Connor does not, unfortunately, play that little Pumpkin. So Dan, wow, turning things around, absolutely drawing everything needed. Now there's tons of energy out onto the field. Everything, well, at least as for now, that lost vacuum to be able to bump and still V-Star power. We're chilling. Let's see what Connor can do with this. Now this is second turn here for Connor Finton, starting with the nest ball.
Yeah, Connor understands this is a very bad spot. You're going to need to bench the other Lugia V there so that you have the option to maybe work in the Summoning Star on turn 3, but we're giving up on turn 2. Turn 2 is just going to be play down Stonejourner. Maybe we're able to target down an Arceus V-Star if things work out later on, but at this point, we just need to draw some cards, read the wind, maybe find one of those 3 stadiums.
Yeah, this is kind of the opposite of what we saw in the game 1, unfortunately, for Connor. Things have gone very downhill. We'll see here.
One benefit is that it is the gift energy on the Lugia V, so if that Pokemon were to get knocked out at any point, I don't know if we're going to see Dan go for anything that aggressive just yet, but eventually this would lead to more cards, and maybe we'd see Summoning Star. Yeah,
honestly, gift energy is so helpful in the Lugia V deck. When you're stuck in those awkward positions, having that to draw you more cards is just huge. Unless you're drawing into just tons of energy. That's always awkward, for sure. All right, so we're over back onto Dan's side after you said a pretty lackluster turn, but just doing what you have to do over on Connor's side. Now we're going to Dan here.
Yeah, at this stage, it looks awkward just having the Arceus V lined up. You don't really have another attacker ready to go.
Yeah.
And with Ultra Ball and the vacuum, you can't really play out the whole hand that well, so gonna just see the vacuum tossed by the wayside and really values the additional damage that this Arceus can provide along with the acceleration of those energies, which could eventually lead to some really good draws off the B-roll, so I don't blame him.
Yeah, absolutely. We just saw that Industrial Incisors draw 2 more cards. We're seeing the evolution into that Arceus V-Star, of course, getting off that Trinity Nova here, 180 onto that Lugia V, and then those energy as well being drawn out of the deck to complete that move attached to Pokemon V, and that is just a ton of energy on the board here. Now Dan's in a position where, yeah, you could be, I mean, if you could do anything at the moment, you could target out my Giratina V, but I have another Giratina V, so we're chilling, and an Arceus V-Star already on the bench, so plenty of attackers here for Dan. Over onto Connor's side now, just looking to manually attach potentially to that Stonejourner, but debating it here.
Yeah, the least impactful impact energy ever played.
True.
And this is a solid understanding for Connor as well, playing the double turbo energy onto the Lugia V. It's not a Pokemon that Dan really wants to knock out in this situation as it leads to additional draws. So why not threaten attacking with this Pokemon later on? And if it's not knocked out, you could remove Path to the Peak next turn with just an energy.
Very, very nice. Yeah, that is one perk. Being able to remove energy with moves there on Connor Finton's side of the field. It's just going to be a pass over to Dan now. Going to attach a double turbo energy for the turn here, and another Industrious Incisors. You hate to see it when your opponent just keeps stacking cards into their hands.
Yeah, just continuing to.
That's a lot of judges. That's 3 judges.
Yeah. Not going to need those, as the hand's been pretty bad for Connor on that side.
Yes.
Once you've thinned out all of the energies, what's left is just a lot of disruption tools. So actually, we'll see the judge there. And I mean, it's the right call. You saw your opponent just refill and was able to find the stadium, so it does make sense in that instance. But you are going to give those additional resources with the gift energy.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what both of these players draw off of these 4 cards here. But, I mean, just board state-wise, where do you see this game going here, Kyle?
Connor loses a lot of prize cards early, trying to get things going. Needs to find the stadium right now off these next 4 cards with the gift energy and the top deck.
Yes.
If not, there's no knockout on this Arceus V-Star. And that lines up a lot of easy knockouts for the Giratina.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you just let your opponent get too far ahead this late into the turns, it can just be absolutely detrimental. So we're going to see the first prize cards taken here for between both players. Dan going to take 2 prize cards. Connor appropriately drawing off that gift energy here this time. So up to 7 cards in the hands now here for Connor, plus that 1 off the draw for turn. And it's the energy, though.
Another
Kyle.
Energy. There's 5 energies in hand right now.
That's literally the opposite of what we said you wanted to do on the gift energy, and it happened, unfortunately, for Connor.
This does not line up well. No counter stadium, Path to the Peak locked, Summoning Star not going to be a choice. The only real option, I guess, is you have that Professor's Research, you lose all of your energies, and how do you even win from this stage? But we got to go for it.
Connor's doing it, throwing all cards into the discard here off the Professor's Research, drawing into a fresh 7 cards. Collapse Stadium is going to come out onto the field. Nothing's getting discarded here, but both players' benches are limited to 4 Pokemon now.
Dan's like, can I see what just happened? 1, 2, 3,
yeah,
4,
right?
5, 6 energies in the discard pile? Yeah, I think we can work this out.
Yeah, I feel like when you see that, you're feeling pretty good because you know your opponent is down so many resources. But unfortunately, that's what Connor had to do to be able to bump that stadium and get those Archeops down onto the field, which now they're in play. So let's see what Connor does here. Stonejourner is going to get those single strike energies attached to them, boosting some damage here, 20 per if it's a single strike Pokemon.
Yeah, at this stage, Lugia doesn't have very many energies to use. It's going to be a lot of double turbos for chip damage in these instances, so you're probably going to have to be reliant on Pokemon like that Tyranitar V to help out and using the Urn of Vitality. But we already saw one of those discarded early with Read the Wind, so it's going to be very valuable resources.
Very valuable resources. I mean, Connor doesn't seem too stressed, at least demeanor-wise. Maybe internally.
Right. So for Connor, the game plan's simple, although awkward. You just need to take 3 knockouts on V-Star Pokemon. And you can certainly work in that with the Stonejourner, potentially working in the Tyranitar as well. But you need your opponent to not see the second Giratina V-Star for a long time.
Absolutely. You have to play very, very carefully now here in Connor's shoes. Every attachment matters. Every move matters. This is interesting. 20 minutes left on the clock in between these players as well. So if Dan does end up taking it into a game 3, I don't know. Depending on how much longer this goes, it could be cutting it kind of close, Kyle. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a match where prize cards fly as soon as the setups happen. Yeah. So certainly when we get into +3 turns, you can see 4 prize cards taken by either player early on. So as long as there's about 15, 13 minutes, I feel like we could definitely see a closeout game 3, but Connor's going to have to be thinking about that as it looks like with every passing turn, he's not really getting much more help.
Yeah, the odds diminish. The odds diminish, but at least that's going to be a knockout here on that Arceus V-Star for Connor Finton, down 2 prize cards here. So now both of our players are going to be tied up in prize cards. But yeah, as far as the field is looking, Dan has a ton of attacking potential, attacking threats over here on the field. Promoting that Arceus V-Star here does have the double turbo attached. Top deck to Path to the Peak. And we're just going to see the Ultra Ball here. Discard 2 cards, back into the deck for a Pokemon.
Yeah, if this is able to find the Giratina V-Star, it basically can line up a game-ending strategy, but I don't know if we see it just yet.
Was it? Is it in the deck?
I'm not sure.
I don't think I saw it at all,
not
Kyle.
Not seeing it just yet.
Yeah.
Of course, still have plenty of energies to use an attack
true.
like Shred and potentially knock out these Pokemon like the Archeops, but you would love to have the additional hit points in this stage. That's going to be what keeps you around when a Pokemon like Tyranitar V is going to be worked into the mix.
Yep, and here we go, the tandem combination here of Squavit and Bibarel. So Squavit's shoveling those berries into his mouth there.
There we go.
Shuffling your cards, putting them at the bottom of your deck. You draw into one card, but then you have the Industrious Incisors to draw into a lot more cards there off of that. So just a really nice combination, unless you don't have the Bibarel. That'd be pretty awkward, but we've seen it happen before. Gonna get the knockouts here on that Stonejourner from the Arceus V-Star here for Dan. Gonna go down to 3 prize cards left to take. Yep. Leaving Connor Finton without a Stonejourner.
And there is the potential to draw into the Giratina V-Star here. It is one of the last remaining 4 prize cards. It's in the middle. Nope.
Oh, no.
Big sad.
Yeah,
those are 3 really good prize cards.
I was about to say, that's, looking at the list, so there's only 2 Giratina V-Star. So, yeah, the one was in the prizes, unfortunately, and it still remains in the prizes for Dan, which is so sad. That's why we saw that Arceus V-Star being the search there from that Ultra Ball. Connor Finton going into the deck here on his turn for his own Ultra Ball. And that's it. Yeah, scooping it up, valuing the time that he needs to finish out a game 3 here. Would rather have, more time to make decisions in a 3rd game and just take it home than trying to grind it out and go into a scary 3rd game with not much time left.
Yeah, just a great understanding of how much time was left. Can't really do anything with that situation. Maybe there's, 1% that you can find the magic. Your opponent just doesn't have the right resources. If you could work in the perfect combination of Tyranitar, Urn, knockout on the Giratina V-Star, and then your opponent doesn't have the answer, but that's asking for so much. Let's just go to game 3, see if we can make magic happen there. Still has probably 15 minutes to play a full game 3, so this is going to come down to the wire here, and it's very exciting for us.
Every time I see these players scoop Kyle, I think, Kyle would have scooped sooner.
That is a game I play backstage. It's when do I need to get out of this game?
When would I scoop?
I take great pride in knowing when to leave games.
Absolutely, but Connor leaving that game, so it's going to be a 1-1 for these players. So far, taking it to a nail-biting game 3. We'll see what happens here between the Giratina and the Lugia. I'm super psyched. Let's see what these opening hands are going to look like. Why you sound like that, Kyle?
My growl may say that's not exactly the opener Connor's looking for.
Oh, no.
It's going to be the Luminion start.
Oh, 2 energy as well in the prize cards here.
Yep, those are the energies that you're going to need if you're attacking with Lugia V-Star for 220. So
absolutely,
all the energies need to line up from this point forward. This is something that's very important in this matchup when you get to go first. We haven't seen this from Connor just yet, as he's gone second in both games. But if you have the Lugia going first, you're likely going to be facing off against a V Pokemon with 220 hit points. Means you need to have all 4 of those energies lined up. With 2 of them in the prize cards, you need to have all of them in order to take the knockout for a full 220.
Oof, well, this might get pretty sticky potentially here for Connor. Let's see what he can clean up here with this turn 1. Starting with the Capturing Aroma, we've seen it time and time again here for these Lugia decks and for Connor in both of these first games. Hit the tails here, so that's going to be a basic Pokemon off the Capturing Aroma. There's one of the V-Guard energy.
Yep, you don't want to have it in hand, but if you are going to see it, you need to play it on the Lugia. We see the double turbo in hand that could be used for the retreat of Luminion, and it was so clutch to hit the tails on the Capturing Aroma. Leads to this Lugia V. You don't have to play the Mesagoza just yet, and honestly, Connor might be able to salvage this really awkward start.
Oh, is the Lugia V off the Capturing Aroma?
Yeah.
Wow, that is pretty wild. That's awesome. All right, so here we go, Dan. Hugar's side of the field, Giratina V in the active position. Obviously, you want to start with that Arceus if you have the option. Get that early acceleration going. If you have that double turbo, you're going second. But Dan, looking through the deck right now off of that Nest Ball, making sure to account for what is in the prize cards. I didn't see anything too detrimental, I think, in the prize cards there for Dan, but it's just going to be that Arc V coming out onto the field now off of that Nest Ball, searching out a basic.
Yeah, it looks like the only card you need to focus on potentially would be a card like that Raihan, but in this situation, as long as you have the energy to start things off there for the Arceus V, you feel pretty comfortable.
Pretty comfortable indeed. Did you take a look at the rest of the hand, Kyle?
I'm going to find out with everyone at home.
Here we go.
There's a Psychic Energy. All right. This is going to work out just dandy.
And everybody's at-home favorite as well, that Bidoof coming down, as well as a Professor's Research, drawing into a fresh 7 cards. What was discarded there? Was it the Arc V-Star there?
Yeah, which means that finding this path to the peak was very important for Dan. Risking it all, and does find that resource. And it's gone.
And it's gone. Risky gaming here from these players. Mesa Ghost is going to bump that path to the peak immediately here for Connor Finn. And it is going to hit a Tails, but it just bumping that path is so important here. Tyranitar V going to come down after that evolution into Lugia into a Judge here.
Well,
so
if the Mesa Ghost hit heads, that was Luminion, search for Burnett, have 2 Archeops, and you get a knockout with Lugia. So just a tale of 2 games with that coin flip, as now you have to go for Judge. Do you ever find Archeops in combination with Ultra Ball here? These 4 cards have to be phenomenal if Connor wants to pull off a knockout.
I believe in you, Connor, if you're watching this in the future. I'm hoping and dreaming for you right now, Connor. Let's see these 4 cards. Please don't all be energy.
We've seen that once before. It's not fun. Oh, that's not the hand.
No, we're just going to see the Nest Ball here, searching out another basic Pokemon for Connor.
Man, I miss when this was Quick Ball. This is so bad.
Oh, sheesh. That Stonejourner going to come out onto the field, but yeah, not the explosive turn we were looking for, unfortunately, from Connor. What, there's only like 3 cards in the discard?
This is so dangerous at this stage. Not only are you likely giving up a V knockout here with the Luminion, but there's a world where you're left on a low hand size. Thankfully, calls that there with the gift energy. I'm going to avoid that, but you need to find the exact right cards, and your opponent's probably going to have Arceus V-Star in combination with Path.
Yeah, you don't like that. I think it's just the Lugia V and the Urshifu V Max.
This is a big flip.
Oh, it's going to be the Tails, though.
Yep.
Off of that Mesa Goza for Dan.
Dan has nothing.
No way.
He's got Path. He can lock himself out. And then I think we're going to Abyss Seeking.
No way. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. We're just going to see the Abyss Seeking here. That's pretty wild. So you look at
Look at me. I'm a comfy.
Yeah, I was about to say that. No damage from that Abyss Seeking. You just look at the top 4 cards of your deck, and then you put 2 in the Lost Zone. Then you get to keep 2 to your hand as well. So, yeah, obviously the Lost Zone not particularly important here if you're not a Lost Giratina deck, where you see that played much more frequently, but...
Well, it found a lot of solid resources.
Wow.
You see the V-Star, the double turbo. Research, going to try to find a switching effect here.
That was just a quick pass there from Connor. That was it? Wow. So just a quick pass back over to Dan, who actually has resources now. I guess Abyss Seeking coming in clutch, huh, Kyle?
It worked out, yep. You got to buy a turn. Your opponent just wanted to get knocked out, so Connor's just going to say pass.
Yeah, I need that gift energy, yo.
The one issue here, the switching effect found was actually switch, which means you would knock out the Luminion V, line up the gift energy for Connor, and maybe Connor gets to have an explosive turn. So going to value getting the knockout here, starting to take the prizes. We are getting low on time, which is 10 minutes.
10 minutes left here. We're going to see that Industrious Incisors for 1 card. Was that V-Star? So we see that evolution. That Luminion's going down. That's what Connor has been waiting for here, to apply that gift energy, draw up to those 7 cards. Is it something we can work with here,
It's
Kyle?
a Calaf Stadium and a Serena as well. So
nice.
Not only going to have some utility there. Oh, finds the Ultra Ball. This could certainly lead to a solid setup. We see the Burnett in hand too, so that was an issue. If you had to use the Luminion there wouldn't be bench space. So instead, actually gets to play that down, line up both those Archeops, and knockouts are going to be flowing here in this game. This is going to be a pretty great finish.
Oh, that is huge. Yeah, great finish with 9 minutes left here on the clock. It's exactly like you said, Kyle. This could come down to this game 3, but we're going to see knocks on both sides. As soon as the setup happens, and Connor's in that position now, the setup has happened. Burnett going to bring those Archeops into the discard and then out onto the field with that V-Star power on the Lugia V-Star, allowing Connor to use those Primal Turbo to line up the Stonejourner with energy.
And at this stage, Connor can see exactly how the prize map works. For Dan, there's one Giratina V-Star that's going to line up a big knockout either on that Tyranitar or the Lugia. And then, of course, the second V-Star is in the Lost Zone off of Abyss Seeking. So if you can knock out this one Pokemon, you're only dealing with attacks that deal 180 or 200 damage from that the Arceus the rest of the game.
The Abyss Seeking coming back to haunt Dan, unfortunately. All right, both Primal Turbos have been used now from Connor. We see those 2 single strike energy and that impact energy on the Stonejourner. Gonna take the knock here on that Arceus V-Star down 2 prize cards. And this is when things start to happen here now, Kyle. It's gonna come down to who can take these prize cards first. Dan promoting that Giratina V-Star already has those 3 energy down currently with a choice belt.
Yeah, and Dan has a lot going on in that hand right there. I think we saw not only the boss, but the Serena as well, so could easily eye down a knockout on that Lugia V-Star or that Tyranitar if they so chose. You're going to lose some resources in this mix, but having that double turbo energy is going to be very helpful. And there's a world where Connor isn't able to get these energies back into play. He might have to retreat Stonejourner into some wild shenanigans for the second Tyranitar if you want to take a knockout on a 280 hit point Pokemon.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is going to be super close here, Kyle. We're going to see the knockout there after the boss's orders on that Tyranitar V. So Tyranitar V being wiped off the field here. And we're just going to go into an Ultra Ball from Connor Finton. Resetting those Archeops, that's super important. The coins pretty much just mean the ability has been used, so it's our way to track things down. Speaking of tracking down, we're counting the energy.
3 energy. There is a V-Guard in hand. This means Tyranitar has exactly enough energies to deal 280 damage with the single strike crush. That
there
is
we go.
The news that Connor needed.
Yes.
any of those resources missing from that stage, and this was going to be basically game ending. And now we see a huge knockout lined up. This is the one real threat that Dan had rolling.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is definitely scary indeed, and it aligned perfectly here for Connor Finton. One Tyranitar down, the other one is out and fully loaded now. An insane threat here on the field. We're going to see the hard retreat out of the Stonejourner.
That's not how that works, buddy. Throws away the Stonejourner, keeps all the energies.
I was about to say, let me just discard this real quick off the field. No big deal.
Yep.
There we go. We see the knockout here for Connor Finton. That is wild.
Not the worst discards there either. Could potentially be holding on to a card like Boss's Orders or that Luminion if ever you could counter the Stadium. Maybe we could see Tyranitar close this thing out as both players are looking for those last 2 prize cards with about 5 minutes left.
Yep, absolutely. That single strike crush, making you discard those cards from top 4 from your deck, and that's over to Dan now. Just a lone Arceus V with a single energy attached.
Well, you can count energies, see if there's a world where you can lock this Stonejourner in place.
That'd be wild, actually.
I think there's enough double turbos to avoid that.
Yeah, that could possibly be true. I mean, Stonejourner is definitely a very beefy Pokemon that we have here in this Lugia V-Star deck. 3 retreat costs, but if you have enough energy left, you can still get out of that. So we'll see what Dan chooses to do here. Both players down to only 2 prize cards left. We're going to see the attachment here off of the Raihan, so that energy coming from the discard pile onto the Arceus V. And then Dan also gets to go into the deck and search out any card as well.
Yeah, I think there's a V-Guard energy, and yeah, there's 2 in the list, so Dan calculating, says, all right, that's one way that I can avoid being knocked out. Of course, if there is Boss's Orders, this game's going to end anyways, so playing down both those Arceus V. Either one of those could be knocked out at this stage and close things out. Just going to hope that this Pokemon sticks around for an additional turn, gets the chip damage onto this Tyranitar.
Yeah, that's what it's coming down to.
Oh, there's not even a V-Star yet. Oh, Bieberl's going to try to help out.
Oh, gosh.
That's not it.
No, that is not it.
This is uh-oh.
Yeah, well, I was like, is that... Yeah, I think they were just concluding what was about to happen there. But that is going to be the fist bump here. And Connor Finton is going to take it with a 2-1 victory in this round 5 of Milwaukee Regionals. Look at his face.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in that match.
Yeah.
And of course, Connor was just hanging on for most of those games. In game 1, of course, very strong setup, was able to line up the summoning star early, not worry about the path. But 2 and 3 was just desperately looking for that stadium card and was able to line